got your share of stuffing. Here's the turkey for you right here. I tell you that much. Coach, how you doing?
How long did you work on that one? You spent some time
just came to my mind.
Oh, sure.
Heath Schroyer, Jim Gazzolo, this is Poke Nation.
It is Poke Nation.
Another week?
How about that?
Are you still in a conference?
They keep bringing us back.
Are you still in a conference? Changing conferences? Moving?
No. We're good. We're all, we're
keeping
we're
beacons happy, aren't you? Keeping the movers.
We're trying.
Keeping the movers happy.
We're trying.
All right, I don't want to get into football, although I do want to ask you this.
Okay.
The strangeness of coaching moves. It seems like every day there's 2 or 3 coaches moving, changing. Do you see trickle-down effects coming to FCS level? Do you see as guys move up, or is this strictly a power thing going on right now?
Oh, I think it's across the board. I think that from obviously the Power 5 to Group of 5, FBS, it's going to trickle into FCS. I think it's, we just live in a different time, and the expectations are real, especially in a lot of places. And yeah, I think that there's going to be a lot of movement for the next month.
James Franklin gets $8.5 million a year for a decade.
I know.
Where his buyout is every year left.
Yeah.
$1 for dollar.
Right.
To go to Penn State, where he hasn't won a Big Ten title. Mm-hmm. He's going to finish 7-5 maybe this year. It's good to be a coach these days.
It is, especially when you're.
You don't want to get back in it and go coach football.
No, I'll tell you what. The Power 5 money.
The money's ridiculous.
And with the TV contracts, it's just. It's kind of like Monopoly.
LSU still has an opening as of now. You could be the head coach at LSU playing football.
Hey, that's an interesting search right now.
That's a desperation search right about now. We're getting into.
Yeah,
No, I just think it's an interesting thing of as these. I think we're at a time where fan bases don't fully understand how hard it is to win, and the expectations are everybody should be Alabama.
For sure, I think Alabama has obviously set the bar, and it's really hard to win. But what has changed in the last 15, 20 years is social media.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And social media has changed the coaching profession because we talk about it before. Everyone has an opinion.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone can get on, and tweet at you, to email. It's
well,
just
here's the thing: is you get
boards.
You got a good guy on the message board. He'll leak you to 5 different schools. You get a new contract. That seems to be the way it goes.
Hey. You have to learn. Obviously, it's not going anywhere. I say it all the time. You either have to adapt or you die. And being able to utilize social media is a big deal in the coaching world.
All right, I want to get into basketball here a little bit.
Let's do it.
Your women's basketball team's 3-3. Mm-hmm. I wrote today, I know you don't read the paper, but I wrote today, first time since 2016 you've left November 500 or better. Did you know that?
I'm not surprised.
Okay.
I'm not surprised.
Completely different looking team. Mm-hmm. Lost yesterday to UL, whatever they want to be called this week. But they will shoot the basketball.
No doubt about it.
It does seem, though, that they're getting off to slow starts. But other than that, what have you seen with them?
I think they're going to get better and better. It's interesting when you go to watch them play. They don't start a senior. They don't have a senior on their team.
And their best player is probably hurt.
For sure.
Their best overall player might be hurt.
For sure. The best, post player from New Mexico is out with an ACL from the fall.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be really, really good. I think they're getting better and better. I love how Coach Kennedy plays because, he presses a little bit back to a matchup zone.
Well, nobody in the Southland plays like that.
No one plays that way, and I will tell you this: they will shoot better once they get back into Legacy Center.
Well, they've made a school record 17 threes the first game.
It'd be even better.
They seem to get off to slow starts with shooting.
I think so too.
Yeah, you'll shoot better in the Legacy Center.
Oh, because it's a shooter's gym.
Yeah,
and I love where they're at. I think they're going to be really, really good, and I think they're going to continue to get better and better as the year goes on.
Men's team. Mm-hmm. A win over a Division I school.
For sure.
Somebody who I watched 2 nights earlier play St. John's and lead St. John's with 5 minutes to go. Mm-hmm. What do you think of that evolution? And they're 3-4.
Right.
And then you sent them on a money trip that.
Yeah, well, that's part of it. But I was very, I watched those games. I followed them. I think that, again, I think we're getting better and better. I think that our identity is starting to take place. I think defensively we're really good. I think that offensively we're continuing to get better and better. And I think that coaches starting to shift a little bit.
Find a rotation.
Yeah, find a rotation, but also really understand the strengths and weaknesses of his team on the offensive end and being able to facilitate that. I think he's doing a great job controlling the game. Sanford is a really, really good basketball team.
Yeah.
And they're really well coached.
And if he made free throws, that would have gone right down to the wire.
For sure, for sure. I'm really, really excited about both.
They've played well. It'll be interesting to see what they do in Seattle. Seattle's, I think, 5-1 or 6-1.
Both of those teams, Seattle and Wyoming, are very, very good. It's really hard to go all the way to the West Coast to play. I would
never send a friend out to the West Coast to play. I'm just going to say that. Perhaps some people would.
It's good money out there.
There you go. When we come back, we're going to have the mayor of Lake Charles, Nick Hunter, with us right after this.
Welcome back to Pope Nation. It is an honor to have Mayor Nick Hunter here on Pope Nation.
Jeez.
Mayor,
thanks, man.
Thanks
Jim?
for being here.
Thanks for being here.
I appreciate it.
And we got
Darth Vader here.
This is a rarity. We've got real royalty here. We got a mayor. We got a king.
And we have you. Where's your,
the court jester.
Well, listen, Mayor, obviously, unbelievable the leadership that you have shown through really the hardest time in this community.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
It's not easy leading, and it's really not easy leading through really hard times. Talk a little bit about that, and just talk about where we are.
First of all, I want to say it's a team effort. It's not just one person.
For sure.
And you may see one person or several people that are kind of out there in the front sometimes, but there's dozens of people, including other elected officials. I mean, it's not just the mayor of Lake Charles that are fighting for more help and more assistance on the state and federal level. But the most popular question is, how are y'all doing? How's Lake Charles doing lately? And that's a really hard question to answer. We got a population of 80,000 in the city. You're going to get 80,000 different answers to that question. How are you doing? How's Lake Charles doing? I can tell you that one way or another, there is no scenario where Lake Charles does not recover. The real question is the amount of time it's going to take and to what level of resiliency. And I think that those questions really can certainly be helped answered by a commensurate and equitable federal response, which we have not achieved yet, and we're still fighting for.
Sure.
And so I would just say to you gentlemen that one way or another, City Hall is going to be here in a decade. Lake Charles is going to be standing. The real question is, when you get in some of these neighborhoods with some of our low to moderate income brothers and sisters who were underinsured or uninsured, you can drive through some neighborhoods in Lake Charles today and it looks like Hurricane Laura hit yesterday.
No doubt about it.
What are those places going to look like in a decade? And that's a big question mark.
Yeah.
I guess for me is a question that's always generated about sports, and we talk economics and sports all the time. This man cut a deal with the Southland Conference that's going to bring tournaments here for at least 4 years, basically forever, and a media day here. How much of an economic impact will that be, and how important is that to get kind of the profile of Lake Charles out there through ESPN and through other things that will be coming here?
Well, let me tell you, first of all, on a larger scale, people don't understand the overall impact of McNeese in general. And we're talking about McNeese athletics as well as the other departments. I mean, McNeese is huge for Southwest Louisiana. I went to McNeese. I graduated from McNeese. I'm a big fan of McNeese and supporter, but it's not only because of my experience there, it's because of what McNeese does for this community. And I think that the presence of McNeese and the hierarchy of Southland Conference, if you will, I think that's important for Lake Charles. In fact, I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn here, but I would love to see if Southland Conference, I mean, their headquarters are, I think, in Texas right now, Frisco, Texas, if I'm correctly, if I'm correct.
Did you talk to him?
No, I didn't. But hey, man, why can't we get those headquarters here in Lake Charles? I mean, that would be a great feather in our cap. But I will just say, in general, McNeese athletics is huge for Lake Charles, for the economy. McNeese, in general, is huge for Lake Charles and our economy.
But in essence of this case, bringing things here tangible that are going to bring people here, not only economically, but really each year you'll see, it'll be important to see what the development is. We'll have a base of saying this is what we're doing, kind of a showcase to bring back the city. Do you see that as even maybe more important than the dollars?
I think it's both. I think that we want to be a city where people enjoy visiting. We want to be a city where we're offering people a reason to come visit. But also for locals, yeah, it's nice to have people visit, but it's also nice to get their tax dollars because if they're eating in our restaurants, staying in our hotels, that's money that locals are not having to put into the economy, and that's good overall. So yes, absolutely. When people visit Lake Charles to attend a McNeese sporting event, they are staying in local hotels. They're eating in local restaurants. They're shopping in local shops. That's a good thing for Lake Charles.
Well, you know, it's funny because and I told Jim this, is when we were, when we were brokering this deal, and obviously the whole time I'm on the phone with the league, obviously I would call the president, keep him abreast. And the final thing we wanted was to truly help this community, because I've always said that McNeese is the soul or the backbone of Southwest Louisiana. So I mean, we wanted to help because we know, and that's why I love, because you're still fighting, is that people just don't know, what all of this community has went through and is still going through. And we're honored to be able to help, the resurrection, if you will, of the city. But talk about this real quick before we go. So, what did you major in? What's your favorite sport?
So, started off in the College of Business, and great College of Business at McNeese. However, I took statistics 3 times, and the third time taking statistics, I said, those history classes are really enjoyable. I really enjoy showing up for my history classes. I took so many electives that I ran out of credit. I couldn't take any more history classes as electives. So I said, you know what? I'm going to switch my major. Yeah. So I did. And it was really when I started studying history at McNeese where I kind of got interested in political history and public service. So I really give a lot of credit to McNeese for where I am today. Favorite sport is football. And listen,
that crushes the man.
I'm sorry, but
I'm all about it.
I'm the most uneducated guy when it comes to the dynamics of football because I never played.
Sure.
But I just love to watch football.
Yeah.
It's every play is interesting, and I'm a big Saints fan. Of course, I'm a McNeese fan, but going to a New Orleans Saints game that's a good weekend.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
When we come back on Polk Nation, we'll have more with the mayor, and who knows, maybe he'll even run to be head football coach at LSU. There's an opening right after this. We're back with Mayor Nick Hunter on Polk Nation. And Mayor, one of the things I wanted to ask you about is when the hurricane came, we lost a lot as far as, I know the boxing that was coming here, some of the other things. Are those things still planned? And how much can you use the McNeese facilities once they get upgraded for other things for the city?
So the one of the brightest spots is a lot of the things that were planned that were either delayed or canceled are coming back. A lot of people don't realize that the boxing championships we had here in Lake Charles recently, a couple years ago, that was the largest sporting event in Lake Charles's history.
Yeah,
how about
major event.
That's awesome.
It's coming back. Yeah. It's coming back to Lake Charles after all that we've been through. The first PGA Tour, the Corn Ferry Tour, is coming to Lake Charles in a couple months. That was canceled / delayed because of COVID and everything else. It's coming back. It's coming to Lake Charles, the first PGA Tour we've had in quite some time. So the answer is these events matter. They put a national spotlight on Lake Charles. They're coming back. These promoters and organizers realize that Lake Charles is still very viable. McNeese has to be a part of these events. McNeese's facilities and the McNeese logo and the McNeese personnel have to be a part of these events. Anytime we can partner with McNeese, show some coordination, synergy between McNeese and the city of Lake Charles in these events, we've got to do it. It's good for McNeese. It's good for the city.
With the move to the Southland and all this coming here, has your relationship, the cities and McNeese, has ever been closer, do you think, or?
Well, I'm a big fan of the current leadership at McNeese. Not to say that I haven't been a fan of the leadership in the past, but I just think there's a really interesting and new energy and dynamic of McNeese. Dr. Burkell and I are friends. We have lunch often. We dream about things often, and probably get each other in trouble because we start dreaming up ideas that we got to go ask the state for money for, and the feds for money for. But I would say right now, I don't know if McNeese and Lake Charles have had a more close-knit relationship because we talk all the time. Any time that we're doing something at City Hall, an event in downtown, anything, our staff always says, how do we get McNeese more involved in this?
What's the biggest challenge moving forward? I mean, obviously you've overcome and we've overcome a lot. But what's the next thing on the list for you and for Lake Charles that you want to accomplish?
Well, the biggest challenge is housing, and it's going to be housing for some time. Again, I don't want to get too deep into the minutia, but typically after communities have gone through events like we've gone through, there has been a more robust and a more aggressive federal response. For several reasons, we haven't achieved that. And so housing continues to be an issue. And that matters for students. That matters for staff at McNeese. That matters for nurses and teachers and plant workers and restaurant workers.
Right.
So housing is by far our biggest challenge. We have announced a couple programs recently that will help, but we still have a huge gap in the funding that we need to really reestablish housing in a sustainable way for this city.
What's going on with the Civic Center itself?
So
the arena specifically.
It's being renovated. That's one of those conversations where we dream a lot. I personally like the Civic Center. I think that it needs a facelift pretty desperately.
For sure.
And so we want to do those things. Also, don't think I'm speaking out of turn when I say I would love to see a hotel at the Civic Center. I think that would be a beautiful addition to the Civic Center. The question for us right now is, do you go and do a renovation to a Civic Center knowing that one day you want a hotel very close to it, or do you wait for some synergy between a developer and the Civic Center? But the Civic Center is coming back.
Well, just if you're ever interested, I've got an idea. It's called the Gym Dome.
Okay.
I told you. I warned you. I warned you there when you sat down.
Just a little domed arena there that could house some NBA preseason. That could house maybe a basketball tournament or two.
If you can fast forward to the funding portion of your idea, then I'd love
That
to
I
hear
can't help you with.
Okay.
That I can't help you with.
That's
Yeah, you just,
I'm not the money guy. I'm the idea guy.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
Both are important.
With that in mind of bringing the Southland here, what can you do? Because one of the concerns when I talk to the Southland about that is is the city ready for them yet, or something like that? How do you get that people to say we're ready to bring you in?
Look, this city's coming back. I mean, when you drive around the city, you see restaurants open, you see amenities. Even with what we've been through, if you look a year and a half out from other communities who have been through similar events, we are further along than some of those other communities. Now, that doesn't mean we need more help. We do need more help. Again, when people are coming to Lake Charles, they're seeing a viable city, at least a place that they can visit. We've got a ways to go, but we've made some progress.
Well, I'll tell you this, Mayor. I say it all the time. He makes fun of me. I've lived everywhere. There's no place like Southwest Louisiana, and I know for Pope Nation, thank you for all you're doing for us, and
Appreciate
thank you
that.
for your leadership, because we wouldn't be anywhere close to where we are without you.
Well, team effort again, Heath, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
We'll be back with Coach's final words after this. We're back for our final moments with Coach. And Coach, I want to ask you about, we talked a little bit, touched on the money games.
Yeah.
How important are they, and how important are they coming off the pandemic year where, how many games did you guys lose to Division I's last year?
I don't
11,
remember.
12?
I don't remember. You know, here's the one thing about the money games.
I mean, you just didn't play games last year.
Well, right, because if you remember last year, games would get canceled and added a day in advance. I mean, it was a crazy time.
There was the one trip where you weren't playing, and then you were going to go, I think it was at Elkhorn, and then the next thing I know is that game was canceled the day after the game before was canceled.
It's insane. It was insane. The thing about the money games is obviously football is the biggest bang for your buck. Okay, in basketball, I mean, there's a lot of money to be made out there. I want to I want to try to cut some of those back in basketball. I've said it all along, you can't truly build a program if you spend the majority of your November on the road, prostituting yourself. But obviously, coming off a pandemic year, it was important for us to, generate revenue. But with that being said, I would always look to try to have like a tournament. You know, Coach Aiken and I have talked about working to try to have a tournament over Thanksgiving or something like that here at the Legacy Center. Get the Nugget and the Bears, get them involved, the hotels involved. So yeah, there's a lot of things that we're talking about like right now, because if you don't have the money games, you got to get it from the ticket revenue.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. And that only, but you are bringing, it looks like in the future, better mid-majors to town.
We are.
And as you do that, I think the crowds will grow.
I do too.
I mean, nothing against Champion Christian, but
for sure,
Lamar is going to bring more people.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So that's one way to get the money back. The second thing is, though, we've talked about this, is you don't want to bury your team with 5 straight big losses because of where they played.
Right.
So how do you balance that? I noticed that you've got, in your situation, you've got a game with ULL kind of sandwiched in between these games. Is that, how important is that?
I think it's really important. I mean, scheduling is, I mean, I always said recruiting number 1, scheduling number 2, coaching number 3. Because if you don't know how to do those first 2 things, if the third one doesn't matter. You know, you can be the greatest coach in the world, but if you're playing with not very good players and playing teams that you have no chance to beat, it doesn't matter. But it's really important, Jim, being able to balance your schedule where your team doesn't get beat up, where you always have a chance to kind of come back and get a win and gain some confidence. And I think the scheduling for both basketballs will start to evolve as we get into next year and a year after, where, you know, we're bringing Lamar back in and trying to play, you know, obviously women played UL last night.
Well, they've got UL, they go to Mississippi State. Then when they're back, they've got Monroe. I mean, they make a trip out west.
Right.
But when they come back, they got Monroe.
That's
and
right.
then they've got Tech here.
That's right.
So they're playing like teams.
No question.
They seem to have a schedule that's, I mean, Oregon's going to be a tough game. Cal's going to be a tough game.
It'd be good, for sure. But I also think that both of these programs, I tell them all, just get to league, because at the end of the day, there's one way to the NCAA tournament, and that's through your league and through the league tournament.
Yeah, that's all that matters.
And so just continue to get better and better. But to your point, not to beat them up and not to be able to where you know, they're just so down because they've just been, you know, beat 10 straight. I mean, it's hard. You can't
build a program at 11 straight losses every year just for money.
No, that's right.
All right, I want to ask you about football scheduling.
Okay.
Next year, you have the games with Ohio Valley. Are they still in?
Right now, I'm actually leaving here to go to Houston this week to solidify
What a
those.
jet setter.
Well, we're having league meetings there, so we're actually trying to solidify that.
Okay, and the second thing, you don't want to play 2 games again like last time.
I don't think that.
Could you start? I've seen your preseason schedule come out already with the 3 games. Could you add like a Lamar to that because you've signed that?
We could add it. I've actually talked to Lamar's AD, Marco, about trying to move it up. It's just trying to find the right date. But I'm not a proponent of playing teams twice. I just don't think it's sustainable.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't that interesting this year. I got to be honest.
But I do think that there's a chance that we could play one team twice potentially. But you know, I'm going to learn a lot this week.
Yeah. So that's on the boards. Is
it
the
is
schedule.
100%.
And how much did you eat over the weekend?
Too much. I was actually in North Carolina. You know, for the first time in 30 years, I actually was with my family for a holiday, because you were always playing and coaching and everything else. So it was nice.
He's the biggest turkey of them all.
Hey, did you start?